A coach cares about your overall success. A coach isn't there to say, I want to make sure you learn what behavioral analytics or protocol stacks or IDS or data protection is. A coach's sole focus and job is, are you being successful? Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. I hope you know what time it is. It's time for Life of a CISO with yours truly, Dr. E is in the house. It is truly a pleasure to be with you. This is some of my favorite time of the day where I just get to come into my studio. Even though it's an empty studio, I feel like you're all with me and we're together. I can feel your energy, right? I can feel the feedback you're getting in the comments you post. We do see all of them. So thank you, thank you, thank you. When I've been focusing a lot of time and energy and effort on it, you probably noticed a shift. If you've been watching my podcast since the beginning, I think we're on episode like 130 or 140. We've been going for over a year, which blows my mind, right? Time flies when you're having fun. But I've sort of done this transition from a teacher and a trainer to a coach. And to me, there's a big difference. And the reason why I'm making that shift is because there's a huge need in the industry. When I started as a teacher and a trainer, building a lot of the top cybersecurity courses that many of you have taken or know today, it was because over 20 years ago, the biggest need in the industry was not enough people with technical knowledge. Cybersecurity, if you go back to 1999, 2000, right, was still fairly new. It was not defined. There was not a lot of books out there on the topics. There was not a lot of structure around the area, and companies needed cybersecurity professionals, but nobody knew the technical components to do the job. So as always, I love solving problems. I love creating solutions to big problems in the industry. So I went and created Security Essentials, Enterprise Defender, and a lot of those other courses to be able to fill that need. But then the last couple of years, I'm looking out going, wait a second, that's no longer an issue. There's lots of great training programs. There's lots of great books. There's lots of great material. Almost all universities now offer cybersecurity programs, training, right? So there's so much training out there that if somebody wants to get that technical knowledge, they want to get that information, it is fully available. However, as I talk to people and I get feedback and I get emails and I go to events, I'm realizing today we have a different problem. Today, people are struggling because they have the technical knowledge, but it's not working. They're going into a company and they're like, okay, I got my technical knowledge, I got my details, I got my info, and they start going in and talking about bits and bytes and false positives and tuning and behavioral analytics and catching attackers, and they're all excited. Yet when they go and talk to executives and others, they're not getting receptive feedback. They're not getting the budgets. They're not getting the support. They're not getting invited to the meetings, and they feel like nobody is listening to them, and they're struggling. So what I realized is today, people don't need another trainer, right? There's tons of training programs out there. What nobody is doing, and what I feel I'm in a unique position to do based on my background and experience and the jobs I've done, is people today need a coach. Now, here's the difference. A teacher, a trainer, or an instructor has a very narrow goal: to teach you a subject and to move on. That could be a week, if you're going to a training event. That could be 15 weeks if you're in a college course or some variety in between. But basically, that instructor is bought in to make sure they teach you the technical material, and then their job is done. They wish you well, and you might or might not ever talk to them again. But as long as they went through the material in the slides or the course material or the curriculum, then basically they've done what they were supposed to, and their job is done. So they're concerned about passing on a subset of knowledge and moving on. A coach cares about your overall success. A coach isn't there to say, I want to make sure you learn what behavioral analytics or protocol stacks or IDS or data protection is. A coach's sole focus and job is, are you being successful? Are you successful at what you're doing? And what world-class coaches do is they step back and look at patterns and say, okay, where are you currently struggling? So for example, if you're struggling because the executives aren't listening to you, they're not taking your feedback, they're not giving you the budgets that you need, all the training in the world isn't going to help you because it's not a technical issue. It's how you're behaving and showing up. So a world-class coach can step back and say, okay, you need to shift your mindset. Instead of looking at cybersecurity as a technical problem, now yes, from a solution standpoint, when you actually get into implementing the solution, it will be technical. But when you're trying to sell, which is what you're doing, the executives to give you money or resources or to listen or to buy in, that's not technical, that's business. You need to speak their language and connect with them at a level that you're viewed as a trusted partner. The reality today is we're in a very interesting spot in cybersecurity, in corporate, I say corporate America, but really corporate universe, right? Corporate world, right? This is not just US, right? This is all over the world. I travel to the Middle East, to Australia, to Singapore, all over, up north to Canada, and it's all the same issues. And the issue is this: executives are terrified about cybersecurity, and it is one of the top 3 problems on their agenda. Most of the clients, it's number 1. A few of them, it's number 2. Very few is 3, but I don't know any company in which cybersecurity is not one of the top 3 priorities for them for the next 18 to 24 months. And the reason why it's the top priority, and this is critical for you, is because they don't understand it, and what they're currently doing is not working. So their frustration level is through the roof. Because normally, when you put something on a priority, let's say regulation, when GDPR was coming out, almost every European country and most US companies, their number 1 priority was regulatory compliance with GDPR. But it was a fixed problem that was clearly defined, that they understood and they knew a solution. So it was their top priority. They gave money and resources. They fixed it and became compliant, and it's no longer a top priority. So most issues are top priorities for 1 to 2 years. They then get fixed and they're no longer a priority. Cybersecurity continues to be one of the top priorities because executives keep writing checks and the problem's not getting fixed. So that's one data point where the executives are saying, we are concerned, but nobody is helping us. You then have the technical folks, the security engineers, and many cases CISOs that really aren't CISOs. They're security engineers disguised as a CISO. And they're sitting there going, nobody is listening to me. I am stating the problem. I am stating the issue. I am telling them what has to be done. They're not giving me money. They're not giving me the resources, and they're not inviting me to the meetings. This is their fault because they're ignoring the problem. Now, let me help you out. If we have a situation where you have two groups and they're both frustrated, and it's because they're speaking different languages and both sides are pointing the finger, saying, they're wrong, no, they're wrong, no, they're not. Who technically, at the end of the day, is wrong? In a business sense, I'll make it real easy for you. Whoever is writing the checks is right, and whoever's receiving the paychecks is wrong. Put it another way, the person that can get fired is wrong, and the person that can do the firing is right. So whether you like it or not, if you're in a security position or even a CISO, and you're struggling with the board of directors, the CEO, the COO, and the CFO, the reality is they have more power than you. They can fire you. You can't fire them. And therefore, you're the one that has to switch and learn their language. I know some of you don't like to hear it, but here's the coolest part. Most folks are not going to listen. Most security engineers will go like that, and they're not going to change. But here's the coolest part. If you become the difference maker, think of what that does to your life, your career, your promotability. If you become the solution to everyone's problem, if you now go into your current organization and you start speaking business and you start laying out cyber in a business way, and you start being open to learning the business, and you start speaking in a way that executives understand and start inviting you to meetings, and your company becomes the model of how to effectively implement and roll out cybersecurity, then what do you think is going to happen? Those executives are going to tell other executives. You're going to start presenting and showing what I'm teaching or what I'm coaching, I use the right term, out there, and you're going to become that world-class asset. You're going to become that CISO that gets paid 5 times more than everyone else because you are the fixer, you are the closer, you are the go-to. So we're in a situation now where not many people are getting it, but if you are one of the few that actually grasp and get this, everything starts changing. So let's go in and look at what some of these challenges are. If you want to break down the current barrier, break down the current barrier that exists between executives and security, and you want to start to become that world-class CISO, first, most important, you need to do a better job listening. Here's one of the hardest concepts. As a world-class security engineer, and I'm around a lot of them, very often in their area, whether it's detection, forensics, whatever area it is, they are often the smartest person in the room. And they know it, and therefore, they're used to talking and sharing wisdom and knowledge because they know more than anyone else. Let me help you out. When you get in the boardroom with the board of directors, which is what a world-class CISO must master, you are no longer the smartest person in the room. those people in that room could run circles around you and me when it comes to business. These are the titans of business, the best of the best. So you need to recognize that, because if you come in and start spewing out your technical knowledge and trying to over speak everybody, you're going to basically lose respect very quickly. So world-class CISOs listen and ask questions before they start speaking. Here's the challenge I want to lay out for you. And it's what I do when I go in to boardrooms. You want to be the person that speaks the least amount, but when you speak, everybody listens, because they know that what you're going to say is very, very powerful. That's how you become a world-class CISO, and how you get the respect of the board of directors, the CEO and the COO, is because you listen attentively to what's going on. You'll ask a few clarifying questions, and then when there's a moment, you then speak with authority. And it has so much value and power because you're listening and addressing the question that they're asking. It's a crazy, crazy skill, but you would be amazed of how many people are not good listeners. I mean, just do this as an exercise for the next week. Just in office, if you're traveling at an airport, if you're in a busy area like a hotel, just observe and watch people's conversations. Not in a creepy way, but just from a student of learning. And just listen and overhear. And you'd be amazed of how many times you have two people that appear to be in a conversation, but each one is carrying on their own conversation because the other person isn't listening. All right, so this person talks and this person smiles and they talk, but neither one is communicating because they're just having their own conversation. Most people are not good listeners. And the way you become a very powerful listener is by asking questions before you speak. Next, cybersecurity is a business problem. It's not a technical problem. You must be able to speak business. When you go in and work with the executives, there is no techie talk. You're not saying behavioral analytics, false positives, firewalls, IDSs, correlations, SIM, any of those things. It's business. Here's what could happen. Here's the amount of money that we will lose if this happens. This is the likelihood of it happening. And this is how much I want to spend to fix it. 100% business. That's how businesses operate. That's what business executives want. And here's the cool part. It's no longer you fighting for resources or money. It's what is the level of risk that executives are willing to accept. Because I'm going in and I'm simply saying, here is something that has an 80% chance of occurring, and if it occurs, it will cost us $5 million, and I want $200K to fix it. Mr. or Mrs. Executive, what would you like to do? I have an opinion if you'd like, but you're ultimately the one that's running the business, so I'm giving you all of the data. You can spend $200K and remediate this $5 million risk that is an 80% chance of occurring, or you can accept it. Those are your two options. Which one would you like? Notice the difference. You're now presenting both sides of the equation. World-class CISOs present options. World-class CISOs present both sides. Here's option one. You can spend money and reduce the risk. Or here's option 2, you can accept the risk. I have an opinion, but I recognize and see value in both. I recognize businesses need to take risks. So you might decide to accept this risk. As long as you're open and realize this has an 80% chance of occurring and could cost you $5 million. Or we can fix it for $200K. Now we're putting everything on the table. The problem with most CISOs and security engineers is they only present the option they want. So they go in and say, you must give me $200K to fix this problem or the world's going to end. And because the world doesn't end, you lose credibility. And that's where this frustration comes in, because all you're doing is asking for money, but you're not showing them the options. World-class CISOs go, here's option 1, and here's option 2. Which one? You're going to have to pick one, but which one would you prefer? And the other critical area is understand the current environment. This is probably one of the biggest issues with new CISOs, is they come in and they want to change everything because they have their way of doing things. This is how I do it. And they come in and they're like, we got to rip out this and rip out. Whoa. This might not have been the house that you would have built, but it's still a nice house. This might not have been the house that you would have designed this way. You might not have painted the walls blue, but it doesn't mean that blue is not a functional color. You need to understand and accept the current environment. So one of the number one pieces of advice I give to new CISOs are, don't change anything for 90 days. Now, there's one exception, and that's if you were brought in because of a problem. Sometimes we're brought in because there was a breach, an issue, or a challenge, and they're like, Eric, you have to fix this. If that's the case, that's different. But if you're brought in because the company, either first-time CISO or you're replacing an existing CISO, and there's not immediate fires burning, you need to step back and understand the environment. You need to go back and remember that the previous person was very competent. They might have done things differently than you, but that doesn't make it wrong. And then you also want to make sure you go in and remember, cybersecurity is not about buying technology. It's about minimizing risk to the business. So you need to understand what business you're really in. What is the business that you're operating in? And then, what are the top risks? As a world-class CISO, you should have, if you go old school, index cards, or you can do it electronically. But you should have at any moment in time, what are the top risks to the organization? And what are you currently doing to minimize or reduce those risks to an acceptable level? You're never going to be 100% secure. Your business is never going to be risk-free. So this idea that we want to go in and make our organization 100% secure so we never have a breach is very naive. World-class CISOs embrace the breach. World-class CISOs make sure the executives embrace the breach. They recognize that breaches are going to happen. They recognize that they're not going to be 100% secure. And they recognize that cybersecurity is a business problem that's focused on managing and accepting some risks while reducing others. So the entire job of a world-class CISO is really about managing and tracking business risks and putting together a strategic plan to be able to fix and address those risks. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Life of a CISO. If you need some help with coaching, or I can help you in any way, shape, or form, please reach out. You can fill out one of the forms on our website, or you can always reach me at ecole, E-C-O-L-E, at secure-anchor.com. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you next week on Life of a CISO.